A shepherd is tending his flock in a remote pasture when suddenly a shiny red BMW appears. The driver is a young man in an Armani suit, Ferragamo shoes, and polarized sunglasses. He sticks his head out the window and asks the shepherd, "Hey, if I can tell you how many sheep you have in your flock, will you give me one?" The shepherd looks at him and agrees. The driver plugs his cell phone into a laptop and connects it to a GPS and starts a remote body heat scan of the area. During the process, he sends some emails. After receiving the answers, he prints a 100-page report on the portable printer in his glove compartment and proudly announces to the shepherd, "You have exactly 1,478 sheep." To which the shepherd answers, "Impressive. You can choose one sheep out of my flock." He observes the man pick up an animal and load it into his car. Then the shepherd says, "If I can tell you exactly what your business is, will you give me back my animal?" "You're on," the young man answers. "You are a McKinsey consultant," says the shepherd promptly. "You are right. How could you possibly guess?" says the man, visibly surprised. "It wasn't a guess," the shepherd replies. "You drive into my field uninvited. You want me to pay you for a piece of information I already know. You answer questions I haven't asked, and you know nothing about my business. Now give me back my dog." A newly married couple make their way to bed and everything is going well until, "Ooh! Oh, look at that! What's wrong with it?" cries the bride. "It's just my junk," says the groom, offended. "Yes, but what's wrong with it? They're not supposed to look like that. It's all twisted." "That's what they look like," he replies. "Have you ever seen another man's junk?" the bride demands. "Well, no, but I'm normal. This is what they look like." "No, they don't," she tells him. "It's warped. There are all grooves around it. It's supposed to be smooth and straight." Long story short, the argument isn't settled and the marriage remains unconsummated. Next day, the newlyweds are walking around town and the groom announces he needs the bathroom. "There's a public gents over there," says the bride, "and while you're in there, take a look at the man next to you. See if his is the same as yours." The groom goes in and returns in a few minutes looking very crestfallen. "You're right," he says. "They are supposed to be smooth and straight, and I found out what I've been doing wrong." Well, they all shake theirs dry. I've been wringing mine out." On their way to get married, a young Catholic couple is involved in a fatal car accident. The couple find themselves sitting outside the pearly gates, waiting for St. Peter to process them into heaven. While waiting, they begin to wonder, could they possibly get married in heaven? When St. Peter showed up, they asked him. St. Peter said, "I don't know, this is the first time anyone has asked. Let me go find out." And he leaves. The couple sat and waited and waited. 2 months passed and the couple are still waiting. While waiting, they began to wonder what would happen if it didn't work out. Could you get a divorce in heaven? After yet another month, St. Peter finally returns, looking somewhat bedraggled. "Yes," he informs the couple, "you can get married in heaven." "Great," said the couple, "but we were just wondering, what if things don't work out? Could we also get a divorce in heaven?" St. Peter, red-faced with anger, slammed his clipboard onto the ground. "What's wrong?" asked the frightened couple. "Oh, come on," St. Peter shouted. "It took me 3 months to find a priest up here. Do you have any idea how long it'll take me to find a lawyer?" A man walks out to the street and catches a taxi just going by. He gets into the taxi and the cabbie says, "Perfect timing. You're just like Frank." Passenger, "Who?" Cabbie, "Frank Feldman. He's a guy who did everything right all the time." Passenger, "There are always a few clouds over everybody." Cabbie, "Not Frank Feldman. He was a terrific athlete. He could have won the Grand Slam in tennis. He could golf with the pros. He sang like an opera baritone and danced like a Broadway star, and you should have heard him play the piano. He was an amazing guy." Passenger, "Sounds like he was really something special." Cabbie, "There's more. He had a memory like a computer. He remembered everybody's birthday. He knew all about wine, which foods to order, and which fork to eat them with. He could fix anything, not like me. I'd change a fuse and the whole street blacks out. But Frank Feldman could do everything right every single time." Passenger, "Wow, what a guy." Cabbie, "He always knew the quickest way to go in traffic and avoid traffic jams. Not like me, I always seem to get stuck in them. But Frank, he never made a mistake, and he really knew how to treat a woman and make her feel good. He would never answer her back, even if she was in the wrong, and his clothing was always immaculate, with his shoes highly polished, too. He was the perfect man. He never made a mistake. No one could ever measure up to Frank Feldman. Passenger. How did you meet him? Cabbie. I never actually met Frank. He died, and I married his wife. A 55-year-old lady suddenly started learning to swim instead of her usual routine of going to a temple. Everyone was curious and asked her, "Why the change in your interest in swimming nowadays?" The lady, with a look of helplessness, replied, "Whenever my son and daughter-in-law quarrel with each other, my daughter-in-law always asks my son, 'If your mom and I fall into water, whom will you save first?' And because I do not want to put my son in a difficult position, I am learning to swim." A few days later, husband and wife were quarreling again, and the daughter-in-law unreasonably asked, "Now tell me, if your mom and I fall into water, whom will you save first?" Husband replied, "I don't have to get into the water. My mom knows how to swim. She will save you." Wife refused to relent. "No, you have to jump into the water and have to save one of us." "Whom will you save?" Husband replied, "Then you will surely die, because I don't know how to swim. And my mom will definitely save me first." A young blonde was on vacation in the depths of Louisiana. She wanted a pair of genuine alligator shoes in the worst way, but was very reluctant to pay the high prices the local vendors were asking. After becoming very frustrated with the no-haggle attitude of one of the shopkeepers, the blonde shouted, "Maybe I'll just go out and catch my own alligator so I can get a pair of shoes at a reasonable price." The shopkeeper said, "By all means, be my guest. Maybe you'll luck out and catch yourself a big one." Determined, the blonde turned and headed for the swamps, set on catching herself an alligator. Later in the day, the shopkeeper was driving home when he spotted the young woman standing waist-deep in the water, shotgun in hand. Just then, he saw a huge 9-foot alligator swimming quickly toward her. She took aim, killed the creature, and with a great deal of effort hauled it onto the swamp bank. Lying nearby were several more of the dead creatures. The shopkeeper watched in amazement. Just then, the blonde flipped the alligator on its back and, frustrated, shouted out, "Damn it, this one isn't wearing any shoes either." A retired man bought a house near a high school, enjoying a few weeks of peace, until the school year began. Every afternoon, a group of rowdy boys marched down his street, joyfully banging on every bin in sight. Day after day, the racket continued until the old man decided it was time to act. One afternoon, he stopped the boys and said, "You kids are great. I used to do the same thing when I was your age. Tell you what, I'll give each of you $1 if you promise to come back and bang on these bins every day." The boys, thrilled to get paid for their mischief, eagerly agreed. A week later, the man greeted them again. "Listen, the recession's hitting me hard. I can only afford 50 C a day now." The boys grumbled but kept at it. A few days later, he approached them once more. "Bad news, my retirement checks haven't arrived, so I can only pay 25 C a day. Still good." The drum leader scoffed. 25 C? Forget it. We're not banging these bins for pennies. We quit." And with that, the old man enjoyed peace and quiet for the rest of his days. Jimmy and Jack were twins, but not identical, far from it. Jimmy was skinny, while Jack was built like a bodybuilder. As a result, Jack effortlessly attracted women everywhere he went, while poor Jimmy struggled. Even when women did approach him, usually because he was standing next to Jack, he found it hard to talk to them. Despite their differences, the two were best friends, and Jack always tried to help Jimmy, though with little success. One day they decided to hit the beach. Jack knew that as soon as he walked onto the sand in his swimming trunks, women would flock to him, and hopefully Jimmy would benefit from the overflow. But just as they were about to leave, something came up, and Jack had to handle some business first. "Head to the beach," Jack said to Jimmy. "I'll meet you there, but in the meantime, we need to give you a bit of an advantage. That skinny body is what's holding you back. We can't give you muscles, but we can make you look more macho. Get a potato and tuck it down your trunks. You'll look a lot more studly." Jimmy followed Jack's advice and set off. Later, Jack made his way to the beach and found his brother right away. The crowd was parted in a big circle around him, as if they were avoiding something unpleasant. At the center sat Jimmy, looking miserable. Jack approached him. "What's going on?" Jimmy sighed. "This is all your fault. I did what you said. I stuck the potato down my trunks, but as soon as I came out of the changing room, people started screaming and running away. You said this would attract the girls, but no one will come within 20 yards of me." Jack shook his head. "I'm not surprised. You were supposed to put the potato down the front of your trunks." In the dead of night, a boatneck is driving from Plymouth to London, and a para is driving from London to Plymouth. The roads are empty, and they collide head-on, both cars flying off in opposite directions. The bootneck, shaken but alive, climbs out of his car and looks around at the wreckage. He says to himself, "Man, I'm really lucky to be alive." The para does the same, surveying his destroyed car, and mutters, "I can't believe I survived this wreck." The bootneck, feeling philosophical, walks over to the para. "Hey, man, I think this is a sign from God that we should put aside our differences and be friends instead of enemies." The para pauses, then nods. "You know what? You're absolutely right. We should be friends." Feeling a bit of camaraderie, the bootneck says, "Well, I'm going to see what else survived this wreck." He opens the boot of his car and pulls out an unopened bottle of Pusser's rum. "This," he declares, "is a sign from God that we should toast to our new friendship." The peregrine grabs the bottle and starts drinking. He downs almost half before handing it back to the bootneck. "That was good. Your turn." The bootneck screws the cap back on and says, "Nah, I think I'll wait for the cops to arrive." A man is sitting on a plane, ready for takeoff, when another man with a dog sits next to him. The dog sits between them, and the first man is curious. The second man notices and says, "Don't worry about Rover. He's a sniffer dog. The best there is. I'll show you once we're airborne." After the plane takes off and levels out, the handler turns to the man and says, "Watch this." He commands the dog, "Rover, search." The dog jumps down, walks along the aisle, and sits next to a woman for a few seconds before returning to its seat and placing one paw on the handler's arm. "Good boy," the handler says, then turns to the first man. "That woman is carrying marijuana, so I'll make a note of her seat number to hand over to the authorities when we land." "Wow, that's impressive," replies the first man. The handler sends Rover out again. The dog sniffs around, sits beside a man for a moment, then returns to the handler and places both paws on his arm. "That man is carrying cocaine," says the handler. "Noted his seat number as well." The first man is amazed. "This is incredible." The handler sends the dog out again. Rover moves up and down the aisle, sniffing at various passengers. Eventually, the dog sits next to someone, then runs back, jumps into the seat, and to the first man's shock, starts to poop everywhere. The first man is horrified and asks, "What's going on?" The handler, looking very nervous, says, "He just found a bomb." An attorney arrived home late after a tough day. He had been trying to get a stay of execution for a client who was scheduled to be hanged at midnight. Despite his best efforts, his plea to the governor for clemency had been denied, and he was feeling utterly defeated. As soon as he stepped through the door, his wife immediately launched into her usual routine. "What time do you call this? Where have you been? Dinner's cold, and I'm not reheating it." The complaints went on and on. Too exhausted to respond, he poured himself a shot of whiskey and headed for a long, hot bath with her sarcastic remarks trailing behind him. While he was soaking in the tub, the phone rang. His wife answered, and the caller informed her that her husband's client, James Wright, had been granted a stay of execution. Wright would not be hanged that night. Realizing how terrible his day must have been, she rushed upstairs to share the good news. As she opened the bathroom door, she was met with the sight of her husband bent over, naked, drying his legs and feet. "They're not hanging Wright tonight," she said, to which he spun around and screamed, "For the love of God, woman, can't you ever just let me have a moment's peace?" A man prepares his donkey and dog for a long journey up a mountain. He places a pack saddle on the donkey's back and fills everything to maximum weight. Because of the weight, he decides to pull the donkey along so that it does not become tired as easily. The man, the donkey, and his guard dog now begin the long trip up a mountain to get to the other side. Hours into their long and quiet trip, the man becomes very tired. He stops the donkey and decides that he's going to ride it. Just as he starts to mount the donkey, out of nowhere, the donkey says, "Stop! I'm sick of being your mule! I hate you! Stop using me!" The man is bewildered, as he has never once before heard an animal speak, and takes off running as fast as he can back down the mountain with the dog right behind him. As he gets to the bottom in record time, he stops and catches his breath. He is beyond scared and says in a scared tone, "Whoa, I have never heard a donkey speak before." The dog replies, "Me neither." My granddad was depressed because his prize marrows were not growing on his allotment. So I went along there to see if I could see what the problem was. When I got there, he was slumped over a pathetic, burnt little marrow. I looked around me and noticed that all the other allotments were basking in dappled sunshine filtering through the trees, but his was in the dark, except for a strong, burning ray of light. The cause was the huge window on a huge shed on the allotment beside him. It was reflecting the light directly on his marrow. "How long has this been here?" I asked. "Oh, well, Harold has had an allotment here with me since the war," he replied. "But that shed looks pretty new. When did he get it?" "Oh, last year, I think," he replied. "Well, there is your answer, Granddad." He looked at the shed, the rays of sun reflecting in the glass, and looked at the poor, shriveled marrow and smiled. We had shed light on the problem. An Italian guy is out picking up women in Rome. While at his favorite bar, he manages to attract one rather attractive-looking blonde. They go back to his place, and sure enough, they go at it. After a long while, he climaxes. Then he rolls over, lights up a cigarette, and asks her, "So, you finished?" After a short pause, she replies, "No." Surprised, but pleasantly, he puts out his cigarette, rolls back on top of her, and has his way with her again, this time lasting even longer than the first. Again, he rolls over, lights a cigarette, and asks, "So, you finished?" And again, after a short pause, she just says, "No." Stunned, but still acting reflexively on his macho pride, he once again puts out the cigarette and entertains his companion du jour. This time, with all the strength he can muster up, he barely manages to end the task, but he does after expending quite a lot of time and energy. Barely able to roll over, he reaches for his cigarette, lights it again, and then asks tiredly, "So, you finished?" "No, I'm Swedish." A young woman walked into a store and approached the shopkeeper with a straight face. "Excuse me," she said, "do you have 12-inch condoms?" The store clerk nodded. "Yes, we do. How many would you like?" The woman smirked and leaned closer. "Oh, I don't need any," she said. "I'm just curious, who actually buys these? Just tell me his name." An army squad is on exercise in the jungle, and the sergeant major gathers the lads for a briefing. "Listen up, lads," he warns. "The local women are incredibly seductive, but they carry diseases, so stay clear. Next," he continues, "the water's contaminated with the dreaded juju worm. Drink it, and you'll be in trouble. And finally, there's a snake so deadly, you have to be extra cautious. It has black and yellow stripes, easy to spot. If you can't avoid it, grab its tail, run your hand up to its head, and give it a good whack. Off you go, lads." 2 weeks later, the sergeant major visits 3 soldiers in the hospital. "What happened to you, soldier?" he asks one, noticing a case of the pox. "Gorgeous local girl, Sarge. She seduced me, and now I've got this pox. You warned me, though." "Right," the sergeant major replies, shaking his head. "What about you?" The second soldier looks sheepish. "The water, Sarge. I was so thirsty I drank it, and now I've got this worm eating at my bottom." The sergeant major groans but turns to the third soldier, who's bandaged from head to toe. "And you? What happened?" The soldier winces and says, "The black and yellow snake, Sarge. I grabbed it by the tail like you said, ran my hand up and, well, turns out I wasn't dealing with a snake. I had my 2 fingers up the bottom of the biggest Bengal tiger you've ever seen." A man phones his wife and asks her, "Honey, I've been asked to go fishing in China with my boss for a week. This is a good opportunity for me to get the promotion. So could you please pack enough clothes for a week and set out my rod and fishing box? We're leaving the office, and I'll swing by the house to pick up my things. Oh, please, pack my new blue silk pajamas. The wife noticed that there's something fishy in her husband's story, but since she was a good wife, she listened to her husband and did exactly as he told her. After a week, the husband returned home looking a bit tired but happy to have done a good job. The wife immediately started asking about the weekend, how it was, if he'd caught any fish, and so on. The husband said, "Yes, lots of salmon, bluegill, and a few swordfish. But why didn't you pack my blue silk pajamas?" To which the wife responded, "I did. They're in your fishing box." Son, "Daddy, I fell in love and want to date this awesome girl." Father, "That's great, son. Who is she?" Son, "It's Tina, the neighbor's daughter." Father, "Oh, I wish you hadn't said that. I have to tell you something, son, but you must promise not to tell your mother. Tina is actually your sister." Well, the boy is naturally bummed out. But a couple of months later, son, "Daddy, I fell in love again, and she is even hotter." Father, "That's great, son. Who is she?" Son, "It's Penny, the other neighbor's daughter." Father, "Oh, I wish you hadn't said that. Penny is also your sister." This went on a couple of times, and the son was so mad he went straight to his mother crying. Son, "Mom, I am so mad at Dad. I fell in love with 6 girls, but I can't date any of them because Daddy is their father." The mother hugs him affectionately and says, "My love, you can date whoever you want. Don't listen to him. He is not your father." A couple take in a beautiful young lady as a lodger. She asked if she could have a bath, but the woman of the house told her they didn't have a bath, but if she wanted to, she could use a tin bath in front of the fire. "Monday's the best night, when my husband goes out to darts," she said. The girl agreed to have a bath the following Monday. After her husband had gone to the pub for his darts match, the woman filled the bath and watched the girl get undressed. She was surprised to see that the lass didn't have any pubic hair. She mentioned this to her husband when he came home. He didn't believe her, so she said, "Next Monday, don't go to darts. I'll leave a gap in the curtains so you can see for yourself." So the following Monday, while the girl again got undressed, the wife asked, "Do you shave?" "No," replied the girl. "I've just never grown any hairs down there. Do you have hair?" "Oh, yes," said the woman, and she showed the girl that indeed she was far from hairless. When the girl went to bed, the husband came in and the wife asked, "Did you see it?" "Yes," he said. "But why the hell did you have to show her yours?" "Why not?" she said. "You've seen it before." "I know," he said, "but the darts team hadn't." A man in his mid-40s had just bought a brand new BMW and decided to take it for a spin on the interstate. The top was down, the wind was rushing through what little hair he had left, and he couldn't resist testing the engine. As the speedometer climbed past 80 miles per hour, flashing red and blue lights suddenly appeared in his rearview mirror. "There's no way they can catch a BMW," he thought. On impulse, he pressed the accelerator, 90, then 100 miles per hour. But reality hit him a moment later. "What the hell am I doing? I can't outrun the law." With a sigh, he slowed down and pulled over. The officer walked up silent and unimpressed, took his license, and glanced over the car. Then, with a tired sigh, he said, "Listen, it's the end of my shift. It's Friday the 13th, and I really don't feel like doing more paperwork. If you can give me an excuse for your speeding that I've never heard before, I'll let you go." The man thought for a second, then said, "Last week, my wife ran off with a cop. I was afraid you were trying to give her back." The officer paused, then handed back his license. "Have a nice weekend." One afternoon, Tom took his 8-year-old son, Jake, to the drugstore to pick up a few essentials. As they strolled down the aisles, Jake suddenly stopped in front of a display and pointed. "Dad, what are these?" he asked, his eyes scanning the colorful boxes. Tom glanced over and realized they were standing right in front of the condom section. Clearing his throat, he decided to answer honestly. "Well, son, those are called condoms. Men use them to have safe intercourse." Jake nodded thoughtfully. "Oh yeah, we talked about that in health class." He reached for a small pack and held it up. "Why are there 3 in this one?" "Ah," Tom said with a chuckle. "Those are for high school boys. One for Friday, one for Saturday, and one for Sunday." Jake's eyes widened. "Whoa, cool." He then picked up a 6-pack. "What about these?" "Those are for college men," Tom explained. 2 for Friday, 2 for Saturday, and 2 for Sunday. Jake let out a low whistle. Wow, college must be awesome. Then he spotted a 12-pack and held it up. And who are these for? Tom sighed, shaking his head. Those, son, are for married men. 1 for January, 1 for February, 1 for March. As realization dawned on Jake's face, an elderly man passing by burst into laughter. Josh was strolling down the street when he spotted his friend Michael hurrying along, arms overloaded with shopping bags and a slightly panicked look on his face. Hey, Michael, you all right? You look a little jumpy, Josh called out. Michael sighed and set his bags down with a thud. Yeah, I just got back from that new state-of-the-art supermarket over in the industrial part of the city. Josh's eyes lit up. Oh, I've heard about that place. They say it's unlike any other supermarket. What's it like? Michael ran a hand through his hair. Well, it's something, he muttered. Curious, Josh pressed for details, and soon Michael launched into a vivid description. It's insane, Josh. They've gone all out to make the experience as natural and authentic as possible. The milk section. You can smell the barn, hear the cows mooing. It's like you're right there on the farm. Then, in the egg aisle, there are actual chickens cackling in a coop above your head. Josh's jaw dropped. No way, Michael nodded. Oh, in the vegetables section, you don't just see fresh produce. You hear the farmers talking, smell the earth, and feel like you're standing in a field. Josh was amazed. That sounds incredible, like a whole immersive shopping experience. Michael sighed, rubbing his temples. Yeah, in principle, he said with a grimace. Josh frowned. Wait, what's the problem? Michael picked up his bags, looked him dead in the eye, and said, This is the last time I'm going there to buy toilet paper. 3 retired gentlemen were sitting together over coffee, reminiscing about their most exciting experiences. The first, a retired sheriff, leaned back and said, Back in my younger days, I was in a shootout with Bonnie and Clyde. The other 2 whistled in admiration. Now that's exciting. The second, a retired fireman, grinned. I once battled a massive fire at the university. Flames everywhere, fire trucks from miles around, and best part, dozens of damsels in distress to rescue. The others nodded. Now that's what you call thrilling. Then it was the third man's turn. A retired undertaker, he took a deep breath and said, One night I got a call from the Hilton to pick up a body, no problem. I get there, the room's quiet, and the body's under a sheet. So far, so good. The other 2 leaned in. But then I lifted the sheet, and the guy had a huge, bulge, if you know what I mean. I thought, there's no way I can wheel him through the lobby like that. So I grabbed a broom and gave that bulge one good whack to settle things down. He paused, shaking his head. The fireman frowned. Wait, I'm not seeing the excitement here. The undertaker sighed. Turns out, I was in the wrong room. A huge, muscular man with an unusually tiny head walks into a bar and orders a beer. The bartender hands him the beer and says, You know, I'm not gay, but I have to compliment you on your physique. It's phenomenal. But I have to ask, why is your head so small? The big guy nods slowly, clearly used to this question. Well, he begins, one day I was out hunting when I got lost in the woods. I heard someone crying for help, and it turned out to be a frog sitting by a stream. I picked it up, and the frog said, kiss me, and I'll turn into a genie and grant you 3 wishes. So I looked around, made sure no one was watching, and kissed the frog. Poof! The frog turned into a beautiful, voluptuous, naked woman. She said, You now have 3 wishes. I looked at my scrawny 60 kilograms body and said, I want a body like Arnold Schwarzenegger. She nodded, whispered a spell, and poof! I was massive, so big that my clothes ripped right off. She asked, What will your second wish be? I looked at her beautiful body and said, I want to make love to you right here, by the stream. She nodded, laid down, and we spent hours making love. Later, as we lay there, exhausted and sweaty, she whispered, You know, you still have one more wish. What will it be? I looked at her and said, "How about a little head?"